1, 2, 3, 4, going live. And you're live. Hello and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And we got a great show for you tonight. It's going to be more of the Incas, how they got finished off. And I got my great co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers, and thank you for coming.
Greetings and blessings to all y'all that come and listen to this. And we thank you for coming, as always, and we hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. Much prosperity to you all. And for everybody living in Florida, I hope you survived well and are coming out of this with rose-colored glasses. Anyway. But in the meantime, tonight we are talking about these two guys that I got in the background here. And I'm going to pull up this because I got to get the first two guys and shrink this down. And this is Althupa and Huskar. Of course, I'm probably murdering those names too. Geez, always never the good stuff. I wish I could hear somebody pronounce it, and that way I would know what they're saying and how it's supposed to be. Let's see. Although I couldn't find the same picture that's in this book. Yeah, okay, here we go. Anyway, let's see. I got to do the share thing. But I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. Pod Joe is in the house. Lucky Smith is listening and live and well, and I want to thank him for all the affirmations and wise things he says on his channel, so go check him out. Elderberry is in the house. Susie Q, and that's about it right now. But I'm sure we'll have a lot more people joining us very shortly. And how have you been this week?
Oh, me? Oh, I've been doing fair to middling.
I'm sure everybody was worried that you got hit in that big storm. Maybe you want to give everybody an update?
We were very lucky. It went very much east of us. We did have some high winds that I've been finding pine cones everywhere. Like, it seems a little early for pine cones to be dropping, but I mean, there's a pine cone by my back door and there's no pine trees around. I don't know how that devil got there, but maybe Duggar brought it up. I'm not sure. But other than high wind up in the trees, and it's kept us actually very lovely down here in Southwest Georgia. Southeast Georgia caught some rain and there's a lot of flooding elsewhere. But right now we're going through a little mini drought. Believe it or not, with all the rain that's fallen, we're in a mini drought right now. We could use a shower right now. But wow, they're combining peanuts and they're combining cotton right now, and the farmers love this weather. So we can do another week without rain, and we've made it before. So and there's a lot of peanuts they're combining, by the way. Oh my goodness gracious. But anyway.
Well, I want to, and you've seen peanuts. I think a lot of people, I hate to say it, and I found out because I grew some peanuts one year. And when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to grow a peanut. And so I tried my hand at growing peanuts. Can you explain to people how peanuts are grown?
Yeah, in the ground.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was amazed. I thought when I was a kid, they grew on like a tree or something. And then I found out they grow in the ground, and I was, holy crap, they grow in the ground. They're like a potato.
in a lot of ways, yeah. And they have these little, on their roots is where the peanuts grow. And so the plant actually is less than probably a foot tall. They're very low to the ground. And when they go down through the fields and they turn the peanuts upside down, so the peanuts can dry naturally, and then they go through and then they combine them after a few days in the sun. No, the first time I came to Georgia back in the 60s, there were wild peanuts growing in this field where we were setting up a carnival. And this guy grabbed a hold of this big old bunch and he pulled up these peanuts. And I went, what the heck? What? They're peanut. They grow in the ground. Yeah. They don't grow on trees, but almonds do,
Uh-huh.
but peanuts grow in the ground. Yep.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. I wonder, I don't know if are peanuts natural to Georgia area, or are they brought in from somewhere else?
I'm not sure of that. I know there were a lot of things that were brought over from Africa, but I've not heard of peanuts being in Africa.
Hmm.
So, I think it was just a weed and somebody said, "Ooh, look, there's something down here,"
Mm-hmm.
And right now there's, we got wild peanuts going on. Folks sitting on the side of the road with a burner and a big pot, and they're boiling up peanuts right now. So,
wow.
If you're from the South, you know what they ain't boiled, they're boiled. Boiled peanuts,
Yeah, see, people don't know a lot about food they actually eat. Elderberry says, my friend who is 58 thought that cucumbers grew under the ground like peanuts. And Lucky Smith, who's always smart about stuff, says peanuts are not nuts. They are legumes. Legume is a fun word. Yes. It's boiled peanut season, Elderberry says. Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, amazing. I wish I was there to try some of the boiled peanuts. All I've ever had is the dried peanuts that you buy in the store that are, you crack them open. I mean, it's peanuts, I don't know more than that, except that when we were kids, we'd get Santa would come and you'd get that bag of peanuts with some candy in there and stuff. And they give you that little paper bag with the peanuts in it.
Yep.
And I always thought, ooh, the peanuts, this is cool. And you crack them open and eat them up, and man, they were good. And I never realized that for a long time until I grew some, and I was in Wisconsin and I grew some peanuts, and out there they grow underground. I was like, oh my gosh, I thought it was a peanut tree. But that was before the internet. Now you can look it up and see all the stuff, but back then, not happening.
Yeah, back in the day, you found an old black man who was sitting with a 51 pickup truck or older, sitting on the side of the road, and that's who you bought your boiled peanuts from. I mean, just buy them from, the old black man that sits on the corner. Yeah, go get because if they'll add salt to the water, it's got to have salty water, but sometimes it's over salted. But you get somebody that's been doing it for a long time, they know that recipe. They know that recipe. They know how much salt to add to that, how much water, and yep. And they'll dip them out and you get a little paper bag, and they'll drip them off. And if they ain't dripping and nice and, anyway, that's enough of that. But now I want to go find some.
Yeah, I know. I gotta hunkering for some peanuts, but anyway, Halloween is coming up, and most of my shows this month are going to be orientated around Halloween. But today I wanted to finish up with the Indian stuff that we were talking about with the Incas. And if anybody has any traditions that they had from Halloween, costumes, memories of Halloween, going to spooky places, send me an email, tell me your story. I'd like to know these things, and maybe I will put them on the show. We're going to have, lots of stuff going on. We're going to do costumes. A couple of days ago, I put out a Halloween thing called, what was it? And it wasn't Halloween at first. It was Sardinia or something like that. And I thought that was really interesting. Here's, I think I got a clip of this too. With my new program that I got, I have this new thing called Talkia. Where'd it go? There we go. I got this new thing, Talkia, and it is it's kind of interesting because it talks for you. You type it in and it kind of talks. So it's pretty cool. Plus, I got a kind of a new program that does animation. So I'm gonna have some cool stuff with that too, especially for Halloween. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Here we go. I'm gonna share screen. We're gonna play a little bit of this, not much, but it just talks about the Shemitah thing. Oops, we gotta enlarge this. There we go. And here we go.
Halloween is a holiday celebrated each year on October 31st, and Halloween 2022 will occur on Monday, October 31st. The tradition originated with the ancient Celtic festival of sound, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III decided November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. Soon, All Saints' Day incorporated some of the traditions of sound. The evening before was known as All Hallows Eve.
So there you go. Sham, I think it's Sham or Sham. All Hallows Eve. So that's how it kind of started out with the Celtics, and they kind of brought it in, and there was different traditions probably at the same time. Now, my big chore is going to be trying to find, did the Indians have the same traditions at the same time? Wouldn't that be interesting if they did? The Wendigo is back. Elderberry. Yeah, and Witchy Moon is in the house. Yes. I hope y'all like that little show. You can go check it out. It was on my thing the other day. Anyway, tonight we're talking about, I'm going to butcher this name, Athupa. Athupa? Althupa. Look at it, made the dog bark. Althupa. He knows it. Well, Althupa is the last ruler of the Incas. And I got to get the pictures. I got pictures for y'all. Don't you worry. Let's see. We got to share the screen. So we're going to get right into this. And this was Althupa and Huascar. They were brothers. And they were brothers from the last chieftain, who was, I forget who was named, Huana Capac, who was the great grandson of the first Capac that we read about last week. So we skipped over all the other generations, and we ended up with the last generation, because that kind of is the most important, the first and the last, and the other ones kind of just filled up the middle. So Althupa, he was so the father had died, and he drew a line down the middle, and he said to his two sons, Althupa and Huascar, you both are rulers, and you both can rule just as well. I'm so proud of you both. Go out and do your thing and rule the land. But of course, neither one could just rule. They wanted all the land. They thought they were as good as any, and of course they went to war. But as you can see by this picture, and as you notice, now, David, you got to look at this. They have mustaches. How is this? They have mustaches, not beards, but they got mustaches. Interesting. Facial hair. So they went to war. And as you notice, they didn't have guns. They fought with clubs and shields and spears and bows and arrows, and destroyed their nation, basically. They were both equal, and they were both virtuous, and it just goes on. They just divided the Incan Empire. They couldn't console the empire. Poor Huascarri died, thinking that they would merge and they would be strong together. Unfortunately, they battled, losing many men and weakening themselves both. What happened was they had one last big war before Pizarro showed up. And in this last war, thousands and thousands of men died. And these, they were, all for the sake of glory of one winning or the other. And really, in the end, neither one won. The land was still divided. And they they went back to their both sides to recuperate. And the white man showed up. They heard telltale of men coming. Well, when these men showed up, these guys were still at war. Eventually, El Thupa, he had captured his brother. Somehow he captured his brother, Huascar, and imprisoned him, pretty much winning the war to an extent, but costing him many men and most of his empire. But then, of course, the Spaniards showed up. And when the Spaniards showed up, this is where it gets really interesting. Because this is where they started keeping records. El Thupa now took upon himself the title of the Inca, the emperor of the whole empire, and crowned at Thumbaba. Huascar in the mountains, meantime, was his shattered forces, and he was captured. Each army consisted of about 80,000 men. Wow. Can you imagine 80,000 men going to war like this? Crazy, huh? Over these two guys. This is how you would be moving your troops. Over the mountains, on the little cliffs, to go to battle. With alpacas and llamas, because that's what they had. No horses. Here's a better picture of it, best we can get. And you can see this, and they got a little bridge here. You can tell a lot from the pictures. The high mountains of the Andes, moving their forces around. These are kind of primitive type peoples.
Yeah, but wait. Go back where you were.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right here. Yeah, these guys.
Yeah, their hands are tied. They're prisoners.
Yeah, must be prisoners.
And they put them in front of them.
Yeah.
Because if anybody's going to get attacked, it'd be the prisoners.
Absolutely.
But all their hands are tied.
And they are. This is I couldn't find too many pictures, except this was kind of cool how they got those little bridges. I got more pictures of the bridges, but the Incas were known for these bridges.
Yep.
But anyway, think of it, 80,000 men on these cliffs. That had to be quite the sight. Let's see where we're just gonna skip over a lot of this until Pizarro comes. Okay. Well, he conquered unknown part of the world and represented a fierce aspect, a wonderful strength and irresistible courage, armed and with weapons which seemed rival the lightnings of the heavens. This is where the Spanish came in. These were the Spaniards led by Pizarro, who in 1531 landed on the Bay of St. Matthew. So that's when Pizarro landed. So in 1531, those Incas were still running around. And that wasn't too long after actually Columbus had came to America, 1492. So that was what, 50 years later, roughly. A force of 140 foot soldiers and 36 horsemen. Wow, this insignificant army made a hostile invasion into the Spanish Empire. Oh, here's another picture of him. This is his 80,000 men army. Can you imagine that? 80,000 men. Even got color pictures. And you can definitely see they got little mustaches. That's kind of cool.
And I'm just curious at the 80,000. How did they know? Just
I don't know. See, and here you get another picture. Now, no mustache. Did the Europeans, my question is, did the Europeans draw these men with lighter complexions, mustaches to make them look royal? But when they really look more like this, with no mustache and feathers on their head kind of thing, you got to wonder.
Yep.
You know, is this what he more or less looked like? Or, you know. So anyway, Pizarro arrived with his horsemen. There you go. There's some pictures of his horsemen. We got to get back to that last one. But anyway, the insignificant army and made a hostile invasion into the empire containing several millions of inhabitants. The thirst for gold had led them through every degree of fatigue and peril on this expedition. And the great event showed that adversity can prompt mankind of deeds of bravery, not surpassed by those which spring from love of country and desire for fame and other motives equally honorable to human nature. Oh, I got another one in here somewhere. No. Oh, this is, I want to get to the empire. So, you know, he's making this track up into here. You know, this is quite the journey back in the day when there weren't really any roads. He's coming from the east and going to the west. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's a long journey. He had to go over these little rocky cliffs with his horses. Look at this. You know, you got this little cliff and one wrong, I've been on cliffs like that with my horse. One wrong move and you're going over the edge, man, and you're never coming back. Your horse is dead. All your stuff is gone and you're SOL. And can you imagine these guys running around with the armor on their head and on their body, carrying that suit of armor? That's ridiculously crazy. That's why I wanted to get to that picture. I don't think I got anything else on that, but anyway. Inca civilization. So here they are on this side. Yeah, he came from the east and had to go all the way across to get to, I think he must have came through the other, maybe he came over the small part and through. I'm not sure of his journey. But as you can see, the Inca Empire in 1532, and we said he got there in 1531, ended soon afterwards. Didn't
Notice
last long.
that they've got 1463 there, when last week it was obvious that they had been like 300 years old.
Well, yeah, the first guy was in what was it, 12 something, they figured. But I think it was much older than that. Much older.
But older than what it says right there.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, this is probably when this guy died off. Because the Alfupa and Huascar were the last guys. And they lived in this era right here. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so we got, Pizarro coming to the Inca city here. And he met with the, Alpaca or whatever his name is. Alfupa, sorry. He came to the town. Okay, the first considerable town visited by the invaders. It contained much treasure in gold and silver and jewels, which, say the Spaniard historian Herrera, with great simplicity, the natives had time enough to secure if they had thought fit, but as they had done no harm to the strangers, they never imagined they would hurt them, but suppose they should all have a merry time together. The town was immediately plundered. So these people thought, oh boy, visitors, and the Spanish just plundered the town, took all their shit, took all the gold and silver. The inhabitants fled into the mountain. Well, of course, they killed them too. They fled into the mountains, and the Spaniards, with their rapidity stimulated by a rich booty so easily obtained, continued their march to the south. Town after town was taken and pillaged, new spoils, only increasing the thirst of the invaders for more. Is it amazing what gold will do to you?
Yeah.
A reinforcement of, and then he called in reinforcements of 60 men, increasing their army, and the unwarlike Peruvians, terrified by the firearms and war horses, and of course they've never seen a horse before, the spears and the swords of the Spaniards, they fled everywhere before them. As at St. Michael on the river of Peru, where Pizarro halted sometime on his march to establish a colony, he first heard of the civil war by which the empire was distracted. See, so he was there when they were fighting. And just like anything, he's thinking, let them fight it out and I'll go in and conquer. He had Peru been at peace and the arrival of the Spaniards there, they could have done little chance for the success on their part of the invaders. Even the vast superiority of their armies, courage, skill, and discipline would have been insufficient to sustain them against the overpowering numbers of the Peruvian armies. Althupa did not succeed in conquering his rival till the Spaniards had made considerable progress in his country, and the panic occasioned by the appearance and exploits had made serious impressions upon the people. Yeah, he's going from town to town, pillaging and killing everybody that he came in contact with. Word's going to spread to the leaders saying, holy crap, this menace of this small army's coming in with things we've never seen before. And they are terrified. Of course, Pizarro pushed forward, possibly rapidly, towards, I'm going to butcher this, Caramacala, where Althupa was encamped with his considerable army. I wonder what a considerable is. The Peruvian chief, hearing of his approach, sent a messenger and with a present. Isn't that nice of him? A present and an offer of his alliance. Pizarro accepted the present, declared his willingness to assist Althupa against his brother Huáscar, and continued his march. Althupa would willingly have crushed his invaders at a single blow, but it was not now too late. Such terror had been inspired by the armies and the equipments of the Spaniards, and the Peruvian troops showed an unwillingness to march against assailants who were believed to be invincible. Go figure. Althupa, time and irresolute as he approached the new enemies, had not the firmness to take any decided steps to oppose their march. So they knew they were coming, and his troops were, afraid. So, he just kept marching. He even suffered himself to be imposed upon by Pizarro's assurances of friendship, and allowed the Spaniards to penetrate into his country without opposition towards the mountains which encompassed the low country of Peru, and to pass unobstructed through the defiles so narrow and difficult of passages that a handful of men might have defended it against a numerous army. Having gained the important point, Pizarro halted. His men took possession of a fortress which commanded the pass. He took all the important points. Go figure. He knew what he's a strategist, I tell you. Althupa sent another embassy, to which the Spaniard replied by an evasive and ambitious statement of his pacific intentions. The Peruvian chief continued to load the strangers with presents which only betrayed the fears of the donor and stimulated a new advance of the visitors. Yeah, he kept giving them stuff. You know, when you give somebody something, well, there's got to be more. Look at all he's given. Give us more. You know, this gets bad. Althupa suffered them to advance and take possession of the town of Colmaxica, a league from his own camp. The timidity and irresolution of his prince were strong, contrasted with the boldness of the decision of the Spaniard chieftain. Without hesitation, he formed a design to seize upon the person of the Inca, and by that event acquire the means, well as pretext to a scheme of unlimited usurpation, conquest, and plunder. Never before was exhibited such a combination of rapacity and cruelty as appearance accomplished of Pizarro's audacious project. So he went to the town. Well, I'm going to summarize some of this up because it just gets long. So his soldiers, he brought 8,000 soldiers with him to meet with the Spanish. And the Spanish were ready for him. They greeted him with open arms. As you notice in this picture, they had their encampment. They took over one of their villages, their little forts or whatever. And just like a mousetrap, the 8,000 men came in. And of course, the Spanish were all waiting there. And they invited, and Puka brought food, and every soldier was dressed in silver and gold. And they were going to have a big celebration with the Spaniards, right? Well, it says here, let's see. They were the Inca, gold. They were adorned with golden ornaments, which adored, or he was the Inca guy, the chief. He was adored with golden ornaments. His attendants, were dressed fantastically with and stuff, and they had a multitude of gold and silver utensils arranged for a feast, which all combined to form a specific and fairly splendor such as no European of that age had ever beheld. Oh boy, he's bringing the fancies, all right. After some minutes had passed in gazing at each other in a mutual wonder, the Spaniard approached the golden throne on which Alpuca was seated. The Inca rose, gave the respectful greeting, and welcomed them to his domain. The feast was served up, and both parties drank peace and friendship to each other. Well, of course, you're going to eat the meal before you go out and, spring the trap. Why not, right? They brought the food and each other in the moment. And the Spaniards were anticipating soon after the horrid scene of plunder and butchery that ensued. Alpuca, deceived by the show of anonymity on the part of his guests, promised to pay them a visit on the following day. Pizarro, overjoyed to find the Inca had had fallen into the snare that he laid, and instantly made his arrangements for the treacherous scheme to arrange. He haggard his soldiers on a boundless wealth, so he beefed them up on the wealth. They're all going to get rich within their reach, animated by them the powerful incentives of glory and wonder. Okay, so with the kindness, they had their party. The preparations were speedily made. The cavalry was divided into 4 squadrons. Now he had 140 foot soldiers and horses. He had 30 some odd horses, maybe more, because he had called for 60 more guys. So he had a lot of troops there. Good 200 or better. Now remember, there's 8,000 warriors they're going to go up against. They had musketeers that were posted in the tower of the palace, and whence they might fire securely upon the defenseless multitude. 15 chosen men with spears were appointed at Pizarro's bodyguard to assist him in the hazardous service which he designed for himself. The artillery consisting of 2 field pieces, which mean cannons,
Right.
and the crossbowmen were stationed opposite the avenue by which El Puca was to approach. The rest of the infantry were drawn up in a separate body, and the whole force were ordered to keep within the square and await the signal. With the dawn of the day, the Peruvian camp was perceived by the motion, but the Inca appeared with great possible splendor. Before his guests and his parishioners from the march were so numerous that the morning was far spent before the procession began to even move from the camp. This delay and slow speed with which the march was conducted caused the liveliest inadequate of the Pizarro. He was pissed, who began to have strong misgivings. They thought that El Puca might have discovered something. He saw a magnificent train of Peruvians in the distance, glittering with gold and silver in the morning sun. A brilliant prize to be snatched before his eyes at the instant when he believed it was within his grasp. A single gleam of suspicious in the mind of the deluded Inca. All the dreams of gloating. And okay, it goes on. El Puca, the unfortunate El Puca was decreed. Let's see. The Spaniards had hastened his march because, so Pizarro called up and said, "Get here now. Get going." Okay, El Puca was preceded by 400 men covered with plates of gold and silver and precious stones. He was carried on a throne. I think I got a picture of him being carried. Don't I? Yeah. No. There. He would have been carried on a throne, something like this. Burnished with gold, adorned with plumes of various colors. Next followed the principal offers of state, borne like their master on the shoulders of his principal attendants. These were followed by bands of singers and dancers, and the whole plain was covered with troops to the number of 30,000 men. Spanish historian Herrera, in order to conduct Pizarro effects to believe that El Puca meditated a treacherous attack upon the Spaniards. In proof of this, he relates several circumstances which, however, are contradictory to each other to the common sense. El Puca marched into the enclosure of the Spaniards without the least suspicion and halted with his chief attendants in the great square. Yeah, can you imagine 30,000 men showing up and there's just 200 of you, or maybe more. Oh my God, as soon as the Inca had taken post in the square, a friar named Valverde, chaplain to the expedition, came out. Let's see, here's Valverde. So, sorry about that. Nope. Okay. So this is Valverde. Valverde comes out to meet the great chief, right? This is where it gets really interesting. Valverde advanced to the throne with a crucifix and a breviary. I don't know what exactly a breviary is.
It's a Bible.
Oh, Bible. Okay. That's what I thought it was. And began a formal homily explaining to the Peruvian sovereign the history of the creation of the world, the fall of man, and the doctrine of the incarnation, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the appointment of St. Peter at God's vicegerent on earth, and the inheritance of his authority by the Pope of Rome, and in short, a summary of the Bible history of the Catholic religion. You imagine being this Inca guy, getting the third degree about religion and the church and how the world was created, and you going, well, I have my own story. You know?
Well, but not only that, but however they learned the Incans language
Yeah.
and how the priest, the monk guy put out,
Yeah.
there had to have been communication gaps.
Yes. I think he had a
You know what I
translator
mean?
though.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
even
Yes.
at the best, the
Yes.
Incan language, like the Navajo and some of the other native languages, they just don't have words for English words. They just don't have them.
Yeah. I
So
totally
they have to
agree.
put things together to try to get the point across. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I agree. It'd be like explaining a gun to somebody who'd never seen one. How would
Right.
you, they wouldn't have a word for it. Okay. So after all of that, talking about religion and how the world was created, he then informed him that the Pope had given the whole Western continent to the King of Spain, in consequence of which Althupa was required to submit to Charles V as his lawful sovereign reign, or pain of the most speedy and terrible vengeance which the monarch could inflict upon him. So if you don't give up your land and everything, we will inflict a speedy and terrible vengeance upon you through our monarch, not us. Our monarch, our king will do that.
Well, now, interesting, the Pope gave
Yes.
the king.
The Pope gave the king all the land. Interesting, huh? How did the Pope get the land?
Right.
Okay, who
gave him the right to give it to the king? But
God, of course, God gave it through Jesus Christ. He prayed, and God said to him, "You own that land. Give it to the king." And if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you.
Oh, and because we found it.
Yes, exactly. God made it for us.
We found it and claimed it for God.
That's right.
Boy, when all these other people are like, "What the hell are you talking about, Willis?"
Yeah, exactly. This demand was so extravagant and absurd, was rendered still more revolting by the imperfect manner in which it was signified to the Inca by the interpreter, saying he had an interpreter. It is not surprising, therefore, that he listened to it with feelings of indignation and scorn.
Oh, hell yeah.
And of course, they referred to him as the barbarian chief. However, preserved his temper and replied with coolness, "I should be happy to be the friend of the King of Spain, who has significantly displayed his power by sending armies into countries so distant, but I disdain to be his vassal. I owe no tribute to any mortal prostrate, and I know no man superior in authority to myself," which is what he should say if he's king of the land, right?
Right.
"A foreign priest has no right to give away my domains. As to changing my religion, which you request me to do, it would be both foolish and impious for me to abandon the worship transmitted to me by my ancestors until I am convinced that it is false and yours is true."
Listen to the words you're saying, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you think this guy said those words?
I think that Chief would have said those words.
Say it again.
Okay. As to changing my religion, which you request me to do, it would be both foolish and impetuous in me to abandon the worship transmitted to me by my ancestors until I am convinced that it is false and yours is true. You worship a god who died on a tree. For my part, I adore the sun who never dies. As for the story of creation and the fall of the first man, where did you learn things which happened so long ago? But see, that sounds like something that would come from a learned ruler, a guy
Right.
of higher learning.
My
That would be,
question was that he would use the word impetuous.
well, yeah, I suppose,
I'm just how
yeah,
it's framed. That's a white
yes,
man's word, not
that
an
is
Indian's.
that I imagine that they filled in a lot of the blanks, put it that way. But
Yeah.
but if he said it in those meanings, I can imagine, hopefully he was saying it probably with the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree with what he was saying. But some
Yes.
of the words are like, I don't think he would have said impetuous, but
Yeah. Well, no, I totally agree. But, I can see him saying, I'd be foolish. But I do believe he said, you worship a God who died on a tree. For my part, I adore the Son who never dies.
right.
As for the story of the creation of the fall of
And also the word adore,
yes.
we've talked about this before,
Oh, yeah.
where it was changed later from adore to worship.
Yes.
And see, they did not worship the Son.
Yep.
They adored it.
Yeah. Where's the
I'm pointing that out because that was written longer ago, and the word adore was used more and to the point.
yes,
And
the Indians always adored their God, but the white man,
until the 1840s, 50s, 60s, the word adore got changed to worship.
yes, but I mean, the Christians would call their stuff worshiping.
Right.
I worship.
Right.
But the Indians, they always adored.
Right.
You're right. But eventually the white man changed it to worshiping too. So anyway.
And even in the older Bibles, the word adore was used much more than worship. So, but see how religion changed and how the wording changed, and now the context has changed. They worshiped the Son. No, go to the older readings of what these people, what the white man wrote down, and they adored.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anytime you see the word worship, especially with Native Americans, just change it to adore.
Yes, I totally agree on that. Well, that was a big mistake of Althupa. He said the wrong things. Put it that way. That was his undoing.
Said no.
Yes, he said no. I just can't give up my stuff, and I'm not going to give you my land because some guy in a land far away, and your king said it's mine. That's just not how it works. Here, Valverde interrupted him by replying in an arrogant tone, holding up his Bible. In this book, he shouted. The Inca seized the volume, examined it alternatively, turned over the leaves, and put it to his ear. This, said he, was a This, he said with a disdainful smile, tells me nothing, and contemptuously threw it on the ground.
Ooh.
Arena asserts that he heightened the insult by requesting Pizarro to return the gold and silver in which he had robbed the Peruvians. Oh boy. Without doubt, every circumstance of this interview had been foreseen, and the last act of the Inca was waited for the signal for the massacre. No sooner had the book touched the ground that the incursion occurred. The monk cried out, "Vengeance, my countrymen! Vengeance! Christians, the gospel has been insulted. Kill these impetuous dogs who trample underfoot the law of God." Did I say that with?
Ooh.
And so the fight began. And as you can see from this picture, here's Pizarro and his men, horsemen marching in. The war has started, and they started to kill And the muskets were fired, the cannon was fired, the trumpets sounded, the cavalry rushed upon the astounded Peruvians, who, deeming themselves perfectly safe, had crowded in the enclosure to the number of 8,000 men. So 8,000 men were in this square. They were defenseless, and the Spaniards had their way. They slaughtered them. They rushed in and they started massacring them. The nobles, Pizarro himself grabbed the noble Athupa from the throne and carried him off as a prisoner to his own quarters. The concentration of the Peruvians was impressive and expressible. In every quarter, they fled. Now, of course, they'd be fleeing. The cannons, they never seen a cannon before. Can you imagine? Oh, boom, and taking out, 50, 60 guys. The Spaniards were savage and bloodthirsty. Now who's the barbarians? They started slaughtering the fugitives, the people who were trying to run. Verde during the whole massacre ran upon and up and down among the soldiers, animating them to shed more blood, exalting them to strike the infidels, and they carried out the carnage. The carnage lasted till the close of the day. So all day, these men, 200 men, just killed all day long. And then it would have continued longer had it not a heavy rain shower started to rain and put an end to the horrible scene. In the end, 4,000 of the Peruvians were killed and wounded, and the wounded weren't even counted. Not a single Spaniard fell, nor was anyone wounded except Pizarro, who received a trifling hurt in his hand from dragging Althupa off his throne. From the bloodshed, the conquerors proceeded to pillage gold, silver, and jewels. The finest garments and other valuable commodities lay among them in every quarter. The booty collected by them was immense, and the far surpassed even their own immoderate expectations. They were so transported with the sudden acquisition of enormous wealth that, without the slightest remorse for the horrible and unbroken cruelties they had exercised upon the simple and confiding natives, they gave themselves up to the most extravagant manifestations of joy, rioting, drunkenness, and debauchery. It is difficult to conceive that these were Castilians, a race distinguished for magnificency, probably, and chivalry honor.
Yeah,
So
Castilians.
Castilians, that's it.
In the Spanish, it's a big deal. It's like an honor and what you said, chivalry. They would never defile a woman, and they would stand. And they just butchered everybody.
They did.
So much for that, but the fact that the chief had thrown down the Bible to them was like, oh man, you should not have done that.
Yeah.
You could have said no all day long, but throwing the Bible down, you should not have done that. But
yeah, so here they are fighting them. Look at, they got the cannons out, and just, here's the priest guy. He's running up and down saying, kill them all, kill them all. Can you imagine? Look at, there's hundreds of them, just kill them. Here's Pizarro. Look at, he's this is kind of a good interpretation how it probably would have went. Look at, he's grabbing them, get down off that stupid throne. Here's the priest. You're terrible. Waving his cross. Kill them all. Kill them.
In the name of God.
Yes, in the name of God, you dirty dogs. Oh man. And yeah, here's another one. Here he is on his throne and being carried everywhere. Remember, he was He was like a god to them.
Now, see, wait, go back to that last one.
Okay.
Now, in this particular picture, it shows natives with spears.
Yeah, bows.
But
Bows.
But
yeah.
In the other one, it showed that they had come without weapons.
Yeah.
So this shows conflict, whereas the other didn't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Remember though, Pizarro had came, and these natives were really already had it in their head that these were invincible warriors killing everybody. Remember, the word went through the land that these people were marauding and killing, and and they were invincible.
Well, if they had just showed up for a big feast and everything.
Oh yeah, they probably didn't bring weapons.
That's, they brought their other stuff. They brought food and stuff and thought the party was going to,
yeah.
And they didn't know they were going to get ambushed. So, but I'm just showing that this one shows everybody with spears.
Oh yeah, which is really cool, So I don't know when these pictures are from which, but this was the best I could get when I Googled
But
it.
it's from the mind of whoever drew it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So they put him with spears because then Pizarro, they had a reason to fight him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For the other picture, the natives didn't have any spears.
Yep. So after they captured Althupa, Pizarro made a deal with them, just like they did Montezuma and all these other ones. He said, he gets there and he says, you let me go. Here he is. And he says, I'll fill up the room this high, this big, with gold if you let me go. You want gold? I'll give you gold. All the gold you could ever want. I'll have my people come and fill up the room with gold. And they did. They came, they filled up the room with all the gold. And what do you think Pizarro did with the gold? They threw it in the room. Pizarro said, oh, wait a minute. You can't just throw in pots and pans and plates and fill the room up that way. No. We got to melt the gold down into bricks. And then, only then, can you fill up the room with gold. And Althupa was mad because he's like, you tricked me. You tricked me. Again. Because the room was filled, right? And he says, no, we got to melt it down. So they melted it down, and his people came with more gold and more until they melted down enough and filled the room up with gold. Go figure. Melted gold into bars, and they still filled the room. Can you imagine how much gold that was?
Fort Knox.
My goodness. Yeah. It's amazing. And then what happens is he realizes in the end, you're not gonna let me go. You're gonna kill me anyway, aren't you? But anyway, let's see here. I get down to Althupa during his imprisonment, held frequent let's see, where does it say gold? Anyway, after depriving him of his treasures, his throne, his liberty, he could not imagine the profit the conqueror could find in taking his life. He burst into tears with his cruel fate and was announced to him, begging for his life. So even if you're a ruler of the country and you're whatever, you're still going to beg for your life. We're going to go back to here. I got a better one. Sorry, these are not in order. But anyway, he's begging for his life. He asked to be sent to Spain and allowed to plead his case before the king. Now you got to remember, this is quite a while. And during this time, he learned to speak the language of the Spanish too. So he can now communicate with them, because he was apparently, according to what I read here, he was insanely smart. He was well read and just super smart. He was reading their books, and he could speak their language. I don't know exactly how long it took to fill that room full of gold, but in the end, he figures out that he's going to die. You took my stuff. Let's see, the Spaniards had harshly say they formed a court and they found him guilty. They tried to do it the right way. So they made a mock trial. They intended to murder on forms of justice. Let's see, they appointed themselves judges with full powers, and the Inca of Peru was formally indicted before the strange court. He was charged with, guess what? Usurpation, idolatry, polygamy, embezzlement of royal treasures, which now belong to the Spanish, and seditious designs against the conquerors. It is hardly necessary to say that the Inca was found guilty and condemned to be burnt alive. Wow. You're in your own country.
Nice guys, huh?
Yeah. Idolatry, polygamy, embezzlement of royal treasure. He gave them all the gold.
But because the Pope said that he owned the country,
Yes.
and because the king owned the country, then because the chief had possession of the gold,
Yep.
then and the king didn't, therefore he was seditious.
I know.
Look how to make up a story. I mean, think about politics today. They're still using some of that today.
Oh yeah, exactly. So after he burst into tears and begged to go to Spain to plead his case, but pity never found the stern heart of Pizarro. He was deaf to all the supplications of the unfortunate monarch, and ordered him to be led instantly to execution. Pizarro really was cruel and wicked. These Spanish had no heart at all.
He was a mean SOB.
Yes. An attempt was made by the priest Valverde to convert him to Christianity during the brief space that elapsed between his condemnation and his death. This is where it gets really sad, and I felt bad. By offering to mitigate his punishment, and the wretched Alfuca, to escape the torture of being burnt alive, consented to receive baptism, and was then strangled at the stake. Such was the calamitous end to the last reigning Inca of Peru, the victim of a series of treacheries and cruelties that disgrace the Spanish name. There is no need, says a Peruvian author, to utter the incentives against his murderers. They are speedily got their deserts. The robbers quarreled over their booty and fell one after another by massacre and assassination. Yeah, because they were greedy. They all wanted the gold. So, that's basically it. And I'm going to go through some of these pictures. So instead of being burnt alive, he got strangled and then they burnt him. We did that one. That's how it could have happened. See, now that makes more sense. See, they had maybe a few had some weapons, but most of them here, they were just naked people running around.
Right.
There's a few back here, but still, when you see cannons going off and they got guns and swords and spears and you got sticks and stones and clubs, you got nothing, man. You got nothing. Phil, wait.
Zoom in on that. See, that's how they strangled him.
Yep. Okay, yeah. Even though he filled the room up with gold, they still strangle him and burn him at the stake. Wonderful. Good men, right?
Yeah, good Catholic men, the sign of the cross.
Can you imagine this, seeing a horse like that? And I mean, I'd just be terrified too. Here's more of a battle, pictures. Men, look at lances and spears and guns and cannons. I mean, these guys, the Indians were probably just terrified just from the sounds. you know. We did
And
that.
the calamity.
The calamity, yes. Over the cliffs. You know, here he is over his valley of, you know, and of course, you know, this guy, I mean, here you're hitting a horse. The horse don't care too much, and you're stabbing and shooting, and you got armor. These guys had armor, for God's sakes. You know, look at this. Look at these pictures. Here, I got a shield and I got a bow, and you got a giant sword with a horse. You know, crazy, crazy. We did that one. Oh, here he is, Althupa. The death of Althupa. Oh, there's a priest giving him his last rites. Here, convert. I'll save you. Yeah. You
Hey,
know,
go back to that one. See, there's a guy behind him that's getting ready to strangle him.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He's
guy.
got that stick.
Yep, I see he's sticking his hand right there. Yeah.
Yep.
But you know, when you're faced with death, you think of all kinds of things to be. You know, he couldn't be brave. You know, see here, look. You know, he's carried everywhere, gold everywhere. I mean, this must have been magnificent to see these people coming down the street. You know,
And to think about all those who were adorned in gold and silver, and then after they were slaughtered, the men just went crazy, you know,
well, yeah.
picking through the bodies and everything, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That must have been insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
killing 200 men, killing 4,000 people. I mean, by the end of the day, your arm just must hurt from swinging the sword. Look, I can kill 3 guys at one time. Look at this. Wow. There's more to come, but it's raining. You know what I mean? Oh,
and it's getting dark. Can't see them, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. But anyway, going back to the Incas, you know, here you got these primitive people, and they build these stone structures, or did they? I don't think they did, because look at this. These guys couldn't fight Pizarro, but they could build this giant building with all these giant shaped stones like this.
Yep.
I don't believe it. There's no way.
Yep. Remember last week, and
yes.
the first chief that had, and his sister wife from the island.
Yep.
Right. And they showed up with this quote technology and knew all these things, you know.
Yeah.
And so
they
and
came
by
to
the time,
but
by
remember
the time,
came to, the key word was they came to reclaim.
That was my point I was going to try to make.
Yeah,
to reclaim.
Yeah, their
that
empire,
which was lost.
Because, you know, see here in this picture, you can see the stones. The Inca, they didn't build this. They used this. And you can see by some of these things, like this looks like they built it. I can see them moving these small rocks and building this, because look at this is carryable rocks. This is carryable. This is doable. But then you look at this, right? 2 different civilizations. This one here, smooth rocks, not so smooth rocks.
Well, go above it and look how big those rocks are.
Yeah,
and go rocks above that and see how big some of those rocks are.
Yeah, and
you know, rocks, I mean, there's a lot of small ones in between, but even the small ones are big.
Yeah, but these here little rocks, I can see you moving these little rocks.
Yep.
But none of these rocks up here are polished like these rocks.
Right.
Why would you polish all these rocks and then just stop and say, well, we're going to build one over here, but hey, we're in a hurry. Don't polish any of the rocks. We're going to use these little rocks down here. If you look at the little ones, see little rocks, but this looks like it was already there. Now, if I was building an empire and I seen this, I would say, hey, this looks really good. See, look at the rocks on top of this. This rock on top does not look like the rest of it.
Right.
See, it's like somebody said, hey, we can hew out some of these rocks, and that's the
Like
best
to
we
the
can
left,
do.
there are those capstones are right there. Those
Yeah.
capstones were chiseled out and formed, where the
Yeah.
other ones were just rocks that they placed on top.
Yep. You can see the difference.
Now go back to the left, all the way to the left. Go straight up. Now see, something happened to where the wall was fitted and chiseled stone to where you can see the transition and even the color changed with the
Yes.
stone right
Yes.
there.
Look
where
at
that little window is.
Yeah, look at the window here. And this is like they're trying to, make an imitation of that window.
Well,
These
but I think that something must have happened to that section of the wall
Yeah.
where it went up to that window. Go down to the bottom one.
Yeah, this window.
Yeah. See, something happened to the
Yep.
top of that wall that they
Yeah.
replaced it, is where
Yeah.
I was headed.
Yeah. And look at that's nice and square. Look at these down here. They're level as can be, square, perfect. But then you get up here, look at these ain't even in the straight line. They're kind of mismatched and they're not straight. They're not even. They're not.
It's like, yeah, but they are stacked well, but to the point, it's almost like they didn't have time.
Yeah.
It's almost
yeah.
like it's not necessarily a rush job, but we don't have time to do this.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this looks like the one empire.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you.
And then I should say, they came to reclaim it. And they said, hey, this is where we used to live. This was our castle. We're going to build the castle on top of it. That's the way I'm thinking.
Yeah, go back down, but see how dark the stone is?
Yes.
It looks like it was on fire.
Almost, yeah. Well, that could be weathering or mold or
yeah, but all the stone would look more like that. That honestly looks like it had something with high heat.
It almost looks like a different type of stone too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but my point is that whatever destroyed parts of that,
yeah,
that the darkness could have been fire bombs or something, is my point.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I agree.
And then they built what was up on top of it. I'm agreeing with you. Those are have to be two different civilizations that made that.
Definitely. See, because now here's another one of those. You're going here. You can see by the base of this that these stones are big. They're fit together really well. And then everything on top of it, the walls down here, everything, not as pretty. These are just put there in place. They did a good job. But when you get up here, this was already there.
Yep.
Or somebody else put that there. The guys who built these walls in this house did not build this. Right? I
agree.
And then they said, hey, here's where we used to be. We're going to build right here.
That underneath those terraces.
Yeah.
If you'll go back to that picture, they did sonic testing, ground radar.
Yeah.
And found out that are whole systems of drain tiles underneath that.
Yeah.
And that if you'll zoom down to the bottom right, you can see in that little corner there, they had places where the water came out. So if it rained, it didn't flood. It would go into those terraces and come out underneath. And it's what they found underneath those terraces is just astonishing.
Yeah. So they knew how to do some of that stuff, but what I'm saying, yeah, and I agree.
They had to do it before they built the walls.
Exactly.
So whatever's underneath that, there's a whole nother bunch of stuff. And then they built the walls and filled them in. So, but anyway,
that's right. They built these terraces, but this part here is what they, as you can see, this thing goes all the way around, but then somebody built with the small stones on top of that.
I agree with you.
But then, and then here you can see from this picture, Here you got these big, and even in the pictures, the old pictures, look at little stones, giant big stones,
Yep.
you know. And then I come across this, and this is in Peru too. I didn't even know there was this kind of stuff. Well, why would they make this? And how? I don't understand.
Well, that looks like sandstone,
Yeah,
which is easy to carve.
that I agree. You know, but what it's for, I don't know. But it looks like it's in a city of some sort. And this is more of it. I put the caption, beyond the Inca, Peru's ancient civilizations were to experience them. See, there you go. I don't know, it looks like little bricks. See, now I can imagine them doing this with the little bricks, you know, and making this kind of stuff.
And what were the indentations? Now, what if
You can get close. I don't know.
it almost looks like those are forms?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they're
Why
for.
they stack those like that? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
It is interesting. I couldn't find any more of that, but you know, but they're mostly known for the mountainous stuff, you know, building houses. See, now I can see them building that. Look at that. All small stones, everything's alike. Yeah, sure, they got good windows, but it's more concrete looking. It's small stones. That all matches. That's what we build today, you know. And then, of course, here's a modern city. And you can see, you know, small bricks, stones, architecture, you know, that I can understand. People build like this today. They don't build giant stone. If they had that technology to build them stones, why didn't they keep on with it? That's
Right.
what I want to ask. And here's another example of it. Look at here. Here's your stone wall. And then they came along and then they built a church or something. I think this is a church. But you can see this wall in the front might be man-made, but this wall had been there. That is not the same as any of these other things. You know what I'm saying?
And that bottom wall is different than some of the, go on, yeah, see that wall?
Yeah.
That wall and the one above it is different from to the left.
Yep. Oh, I totally agree with that.
So,
Because,
you know,
but this wall,
yeah,
looks out of place. And look at the stone. I mean, we can't get up too much, but
and the color.
The color and the way it's put together is different than any of these other things. You know,
Right.
Today, this wall down here, we could build this wall because it's got the small stones. And it, you know, you can buy that stuff at Menards. You know, this is old. This building, you can see the building is old. That's kind of old stone structure stuff. But this, they didn't build that. That wall is so out of place. And you could see where it kind of broke apart right here. Why would you start building a wall and just stop? You know, did that fall in at one point in time and they used it somewhere else? You know, it's a good question. Just some architecture. Here's the bridges. They're known for these bridges going over the canyons. You know, can you imagine walking across that with your alpacas and your llamas or whatever?
I want to know how they got the ropes across.
Yeah.
How did they get the ropes across?
They had to get one rope first.
And, you know, once they got one rope, I could see how they could pass stuff back and forth. But how did they get the first one? That's what I want to know.
That's a good question.
I mean, it's too wide to throw it, you know.
Yes.
Did they use a catapult? I mean, how did they get that first rope across?
It's a good question.
For me and my vertigo,
yeah,
I couldn't get on the bridge, let alone walk across it.
Yeah.
I'd be terrified.
Oh, I'm sure it sways and moves and
oh yeah.
And of course, do these people look like they built those giant stone structures? You know, I mean, really, you're living in grass huts made of reeds on a giant lake. You're not going and building giant stone structures. You know what I mean? And, why would you live in this when you could be building giant stone structures? I just don't get it.
And well, the giant stone, the stone structures, look at the altitude, but
Yeah.
what's up there? Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So, I mean, they're living down here on the lake because that's where the food is. That's where the water is. That's where everything is. So, so why would you go up in the mountains? Why would you want to live up there? It's impractical.
It is.
Stupid.
It is, but yet we've seen structures all over that lake. Here's some old renditions of these old time painted pictures are sometimes pretty good. Look at that giant bridge, suspension bridge. They had suspension bridges before we even thought about suspension bridges. Look at, he's got his pack mule there. Wow. I think
somebody taught him something long time ago.
Well, that's what I said. That first guy that came, Kapaka or Kalpak, he brought that information, remember? And then he passed it down through the lineages, and they kept the lineages pure as it went. And that way they passed that knowledge from one to the other, because these guys were really smart. I read about all the descendants, from the first one to this guy, and they were all brilliant. They were smart. They were had great reigns, and they ruled their people well. They weren't like real vicious. They didn't, according to what I read, they weren't sacrificing thousands of people because it didn't rain. They didn't do that. That wasn't their thing. So anyway,
and
I guess
they weren't necessarily warring nations either.
No, they were probably with the people next to them or something, but they were, they had their area, and they were smart, and they were, but why would they need to invent a lot of things? But when it comes to these stone structures, if you can move these big rocks and do all that stuff, it's just lackluster on anything else. It's like saying, well, I can build a pyramid, but I couldn't figure out how to make the wheel. I could align it with the moon and the stars and the circumference of the sun, but making a wheel, I never thought of anything round before. Wow, what a revelation. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what? They didn't have horses to pull those rocks. That all had to be, labor intensive. Llamas and alpacas and people, people power. And up mountains.
Even the smaller stones.
Yes.
Would have taken a great effort.
Yes, especially with being up in those altitudes. I mean, when you're up at 4, 5, 6, 7,000 feet, you're not breathing the same.
Right.
Lack of oxygen. You can't. You're just doing your thing.
And also, one thing too is like, the humidity is like is next to nothing in some of them places. So while you're up there in those altitudes, you can get sunburnt really easy.
Yes.
I mean, you can just get fried,
Oh, absolutely.
And so, that's why they wore those, blanket like things over them, and but anyway, especially up in the altitudes.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of people joining us tonight. Mossy Man is here, and Chloe. Hello, Chloe. Big Al came to join us. Remember, Big Al's got the cards. They're in print right now. He's got a 5,000-mile journey. Let's see. S. Lee is in the house, and let's see who else. Lucky Smith, and there we go. And Chloe says, going to bed. Good night. All right. Good night, Chloe. I'm sure she had a hard day at work. So anyway, what do you got for us tonight?
Well, I've been fishing around for stories, and this one just, for whatever reason, wants to be read. Okay, I don't know how else to put it. You know, it's one of them things. And if you go to your little thingy,
yeah,
it's on 423, so it's towards the bottom or the end.
423. Oh, give me a second here. 2 and 23. Washashi and the first totem pole.
Yep.
Wakashi. Did I say it right? Wakashi.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't looking at it. Oh, Wakiash.
What?
Wakiash. Wakiash.
Oh, see, that's why I'm the king of mispronunciation. I win again. Oh man. Well, people, I hope you enjoyed the story of Alpuca and what the hell is his name again? Huascar and the fall of the Inca Empire. I tell you, it was bloody, gory, everything you could wish in them. The war, and the guy ended up with all the gold. Oh boy, am I terrible or what? Oh,
you know, telling the truth hurts sometimes.
But you know, I feel bad because every time the Europeans showed up, regardless if it was the Spanish or the English or French, the Indians always got the raw end of the deal.
And it was always bloody.
Yes, exactly. Feel sorry for them. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and warn them.
Well, they were warned and it still didn't do any good. But
yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know?
Yeah. All right. I'm done with mine. There you go. I think I got the right page. Wakashi. Yep. Wakiash. And the first totem pole. You know, totem poles are kind of Halloweenish. That's cool.
Not really, but and you're going to find that out because I discussed totem poles last week or so, and it came, and every time I tried to look at another story, it kept coming back to this one. So I may have read this one way back when, but here goes for another time. So Wakiash and the first totem pole. The totem poles of the Northwest Coast tribes were actually family crests rather than religious icons, denoting the owner's legendary descent from an animal such as the bear, the raven, the wolf, salmon, or the killer whale. Coming into a village, a stranger would first look for a house with the totem pole of his own clan animal. Its owner was sure to receive him as a friend and offer him food and shelter. Totem poles also preserved ancient customs by making sure that in every region within visiting distance of others, the old stories were repeated and the old beliefs about the spirits, the origins of fire, and other myths were basically the same despite linguistic differences between main tribal groups. Wakiash was a chief named after the river Wakiash because he was open-handed and flowing with gifts, even as the river flowed with fish. It happened once that the whole tribe was having a dance. Wakiash had never created a dance of his own, and he was unhappy because All the other chiefs had fine dances. So he thought, I will go up into the mountains to fast, and perhaps a dance will come to me. Wakiash made himself ready and went to the mountains, where he stayed fasting and bathing for 4 days. Early in the morning of the 4th day, he grew so weary that he lay upon his back and fell asleep. Then he felt something on his breast, and he woke to see a little green frog. Lie still, the frog said, because you are on the back of a raven who is going to fly you and me around the world. Then you can see what you want and take it. The raven began to beat its wings, and they flew for 4 days, during which Wakiash saw many things. When they were on their way back, he spotted a house with a beautiful totem pole in front and heard the sound of singing inside the house. Thinking that these were fine things, he wished he could take them home. The frog, who knew his thoughts, told the raven to stop. As the bird coasted to the ground, the frog advised the chief to hide behind the door of the house. Stay there until they begin to dance, the frog said, then leap out into the room. The people tried to begin a dance, but could do nothing, neither dance nor sing. One of them said, something's the matter. There must be something near us that makes us feel like this. And the chief said, let one of us who can run faster than the flames of the fire rush around the house and find what it is. So the little mouse said that she would go, for she could creep anywhere, even into a box, and if anyone were hiding, she would find him. The mouse had taken off her mouse skin clothes and was presently appearing in the form of a woman. Indeed, all the people of the house were animals who looked like humans because they had taken off their animal skin clothes to dance. When the mouse ran out, Wakiash caught her and said, ha, my friend, I have a gift for you. And he gave her a piece of mountain goat's fat. The mouse was so pleased with Wakiash that she began talking to him. What do you want? She asked eventually. Wakiash said that he wanted the totem pole, the house, and the dances and songs that belonged to them. The mouse said, stay here, wait till I come again. Wakiash stayed, and the mouse went in and told the dancers, I've been everywhere to see if there's a man around, but I couldn't find anybody. And the chief, who looked like a man, but was really a beaver, said, let's try again to dance. They tried 3 times, but couldn't do anything. And each time they sent the mouse to search, but each time she mouse only chatted with Wakiash and returned to report that no one was there. The third time she was sent out, she said to him, get ready, and when they begin to dance, leap out into the room. When the mouse told the animals again that no one was there, they began to dance. Then Wakiash sprang in, and at once they all dropped their heads in shame because a man had seen them looking like men, whereas they were really animals. The dancers stood silent until at last the mouse said, let's not waste time. Let's ask our friend what he wants. The dancers stood silent, and at last the mouse said, oh, I'm repeating, let's not waste time. Let's ask our friend what he wants. So they all lifted up their heads, and the chief asked the man what he wanted. Wakiash thought that he would like to have the dance because he had never had one of his own. Also, he thought he would like to have the house and the totem pole that he had seen outside. Though the man did not speak, the mouse divined his thoughts and told the dancers. And the chief said, "Let our friend sit down. We'll show him how we dance, and he can pick out whatever dance he wants." So they began to dance, and when they had ended, the chief asked Wakiash what kind of dance he would like. The dancers had been using all sorts of masks. Most of all, Wakiash wanted the echo mask and the mask of the little man who goes about the house talking, and trying to quarrel with others. Wakiash only formed his wishes in his mind. The mouse told them to the chief. So the animals taught Wakiash all of their dances. And the chief told him that he might take as many dances and masks as he wished, as well as the house and the totem pole. The beaver chief promised Wakiash that these things would all go with him when he returned home, and that he could use them all in one dance. The chief also gave him for his own the name of the totem pole, Kalakuyuwish, meaning the sky pole, because the pole was so tall. So the chief took the house and folded it up like a little bundle. He put it into the headdress of one of the dancers and gave it to Wakiash, saying, "When you reach home, throw down this bundle. The house will become as it was when you first saw it, and then you can begin to give a dance." Wakiash went back to the raven, and the raven flew away with him toward the mountain from which they had set out. Before they arrived, Wakiash fell asleep, and when he awoke, the raven and the frog were gone, and he was alone. It was night by the time Wakiash arrived home. He threw down the bundle that was in the headdress, and there was the house with its totem pole. The whale painted on the house was blowing. The animals carved on the totem pole were making their noises, and all the masks inside the house were talking and crying aloud. At once, Wakiash's people woke up and came out to see what was happening. And Wakiash found that instead of 4 days, he had been away for 4 years. They all went into the new house, and Wakiash began to make a dance. He taught the people the songs, and they sang while Wakiash danced. Then the echo came, and whoever made a noise, the echo made the same by changing the mouthpiece of its mask. When they had finished dancing, the house was gone. It went back to the animals, and all the chiefs were ashamed because Wakiash now had the best dance. Then Wakiash made a house and mask and a totem pole out of wood. And when the totem pole was finished, the people composed a song for it. This pole was the first the tribe had ever had. The animals had named it Kalikuyuwish, the pole that holds up the sky. And they said that it made a creaking noise because the sky was so heavy. And Wakiash took it for his own, the name of the totem pole, Kaliakuwish, based on a version reported by Natalie Curtis in the Indians book of 1907.
There we go. Woo. That was good.
It's just an interesting story. And, but there's so many people that have the wrong impression of the totem pole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And,
I mean, you go to the Northwest. I think we did the Northwest Indians there for a bit. And yeah, they had their totem poles with the different designs, and but they had wood to work with, and they built houses because they had wood to work with. You know,
Oh, huge trees.
you know, that's the thing. These people were very ingenious. Wherever they were, they used the things of the land to make their houses. Like the Plains Indians used sticks, and they used buffalo hides to make their teepees. And you know, out west they made log cabins pretty much, or huts or whatever. And in out east they made long houses from the barks of trees. You know, I mean, different areas, different things, but they all worked the same. And the idea was still the same. I mean, no matter which tribe you went to across the states, they lived in groups. They lived together with all their family. You notice that? Not like this is Ma and Pa and the kids, and everybody else lives somewhere else. You know, they lived all in the same house. This is George and Aunt Bessie over there. You know, we're all together.
Yeah.
So.
And there wasn't much room for hate.
No.
If you disagreed with somebody, you better settle it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because living in close quarters and having been in several different lodges or teepees, and in really bad weather a couple of times, you get folks with buffalo skins on the ground, and there's a fire in the middle, and where everybody puts their stuff and how you lay out in there, and you're gonna be next to somebody, you're gonna be touching somebody.
Yeah.
It's just hard to not, so, but the idea of a family unit, if you've ever been in a teepee with other folks, is a whole lot different than the family unit who lived in a house, in bedrooms. I mean, even some of the houses, though, there were a lot of times, especially big families, there were 6 people lived in one room. Sometimes there was 2-3 people in one bed. There were stories that I read, about Abraham Lincoln when he was running for Congress and then for president, that when he was traveling around, it wasn't uncommon for him to share the bed with another man because there were so few beds to go around. It was like, what? And so even back in the day, if you were off the ground and could sleep in a bed, and if you shared it with 2 or 3 people, that you were glad for it. But anyway.
Oh yeah, I totally get that, and that's so true. I mean, things have changed a lot. We'll put it this way: we're all selfish. I got to have my bed, and it's got to be big, and I'm the only one I want to be in there. I ain't gonna share with anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And we get, we don't share. I think we're not as grateful as when we were kids. I mean, when you were a kid, you were happy to have anything, weren't you? And I was happy just to have some old junk to play with. That was, my toys kind of thing. Yeah, sure, I got a few things here and there, but simple things were just as fun. It
was amazing what we did with cardboard boxes.
Oh yeah.
It was amazing what we did with old wheels from bicycles. It was amazing what we did with old baby carriages and wheels and 2x4s. And it was amazing what we did. I mean?
Yeah.
We resembled the Little Rascals from the original Little Rascals with the, Petey with one eye and him pulling wagons and stuff. And we have this little hill that we made our race cars with, you know, and had to push them halfway down the hill. But, you know, oh my God, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
kids today, that, you know,
I would
we
just
were
take
ingenious. We didn't know how to build stuff, so we improvised. And then we learn from our mistakes when you're halfway down the hill and the wheel falls off and you're skidding into the dirt, you know.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, uh-huh.
But the thing is we use your imagination for things. And you know, I mean, I remember making forts out of just old junk we had around, you know, car hoods and you know, I remember a piece of glass and you know, an old window and a car seat and you know, some tarps and stuff and you know, oh boy, I was having the best time of my life, you know. And today, oh man, these kids, they sit and play video games. They don't have that imagination. They don't go out into the woods and you know, oh yeah, you know, just craziness. You know, I had a bicycle and I'd make those little ramps and jump and I would think, oh boy, I'm like Evel Knievel.
We did that. We dug holes because it's a lot of sand down there in Florida. And we dug holes because in the summertime it was hotter than hell. And we covered it with anything, palmetto fronds, you name it. But we also were crazy people. And we dug holes and filled it full of pine needles and leaves. And then we jumped out of the trees into these big piles of palm, you know, of pine needles, you know, and I mean 4 or 5 feet thick. I mean, you know,
wow.
we were the original before Evel Knievel, you know. And
You're
of course, we
stuntmen.
had ramps, and every single one of us knew how to ride on the handlebars backwards. In our neighborhood, that was the thing to do. If you weren't nothing, if you couldn't ride on the handlebars backwards.
Wow.
And we all knew how to do it, you know, and it was just a thing. But nowadays, you know,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah, the
they
kids.
do have all these kind of bikes where they do all these tricks and stuff, but you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, but you know, that I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's as prevalent. You know, when I was a kid, yeah, everybody had a bicycle and we were all riding around. Now, I don't even see anybody riding a bicycle anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And some of
Yeah.
the inner cities and stuff, but as a general, no, folks ain't riding bicycles like they used to.
No, all the kids used to have a bicycle up the street and we'd all meet and ride around and
For hours.
Yes, hours and hours. And,
I mean,
yeah.
almost every day, you know, if you rode your bicycle to school and then home and then around the neighborhood and then to do this or that. And I mean, we were, you know, we spent at least an hour and a half a day on a bicycle every single day. And they weren't 10 speeders. No, they were just regular
pedal bike.
Just regular pedal bikes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I've pulled the cards.
All right. What do you got?
I'm not sure, but didn't I pull frog not too long ago?
No, you had beaver and bear and
all right.
Whale
well, we've got frog and porcupine.
Ooh,
which was interesting because I was reading something earlier about porcupine, and porcupine's supposed to be the Null family crest, which is, you know, personal to me. But anyway, so frog is cleansing, and now it is upside down, but I'm not really sure because I flipped the cards. So, but I'm going to read it. It's about cleansing. Let me find my other glasses. Hang on, y'all. Let me get this other pair that's better than the last set I had. Ooh. Let me get them in the right order.
Bifocals by the original.
Sing, frog, sing, call the rains, quench the dryness cleanse the earth, then fill me up again. Frog is cleansing. Frog sings the songs that bring the rain and make the dirt road more bearable. Frog medicine is akin to water energy and is on the east on the medicine wheel. Frog teaches us to honor our tears, for they cleanse the soul. All water rights belong to Frog, including all initiations by water. Water prepares and cleanses the body for sacred ceremony. It is the element we understand best in the womb. Frog, like ourselves, is a polywog in the fetal waters, and then only learns to hop after it experiences the world of fluidity. The transformation into adulthood prepares Frog for its power to call in the waters of the skies, the rain. In knowing the element of water, Frog can sing the song that calls the rain to earth. When the ponds are dry, Frog calls upon the thunder beings to cleanse and replenish the earth with water. Like Frog, we are asked to know when it is time to refresh, purify, and refill the coffers of the soul. If Frog hopped into the cards today, its ribbit may be calling you in the cleansing you need. If you were to look at where you are today, would you use any of the following words to describe your condition? Tired, overloaded, harried, frustrated, guilty, itchy, nervous, at a loss, empty, or weakened? If so, take a break and allow yourself to bathe in the waters of frog medicine. This could mean a long, relaxing bath, disconnecting the phone, and yelling stop or taking in deep cleansing breaths. The key thought is to find a way to rid yourself of distractions and to replace the mud with clear energy. Then replenish your part spirit, your body, and mind. An ability of frog medicine people is to give support and energy where it is needed. A frog medicine person can clean negativity from any environment. Many mediums or clairvoyants who work with cleaning haunted houses carry frog medicine. Frog speaks of new life and harmony through its rain song. The deep tones of Frog's ribbits are said to be a call to the thunder beings. Thunder, lightning, and rain. The ribbit is the heartbeat that comes into harmony with Father Sky and calls for the replenishment needed. Now, the contrary, Frog slipped in the mud and is lying on its back, unable to right itself. Get ready for more mud in your eye. The contrary position of Frog can denote an unwillingness on your part to wipe the mire out of your life. Mud can turn from mire to bog to quicksand if you don't recognize its effects. I have to go check my dog. Talk about something for a minute.
All right.
He's outside. I'll be back. Hang on.
We got frog calls. And we're going to do a little bit of frog calling. And we're going to do this. Since we're on frog, why not? Right? Let's see. Frog sound. New beginning. Yeah, because I always know when it's spring because I can hear the frogs chirping. I didn't even know there was a desert frog. Rain frog. Look at that. New beginning. Yes, that's what it is. What a good card. Huh, common frog. They come in all shapes and colors and sizes. Well, that's an ugly one. I've never seen one of those. Well, that one's got spooky eyes. Hypnotoad. I've heard that. I've heard that frog. Never seen one like that, but I've heard that noise.
Crickets, ribbits. Sorry for the
That's all right. We were just checking out.
There's a bunch of stuff going on out there.
We were just
but anyway,
checking
so
out
if this was a contrary frog, is someone draining your energy? Are you allowing yourself to ride down the tubes with them? Have you tried to settle somebody else's quarrel and gotten in the line of fire? Stop it. Recognize what it is that's mucking up the lily pad. Swim with frog. Frog's bug eyes see it all. Dive deeply and then hop to the next lily pad to catch the sun. And this way you may see exactly what has been draining your energy. Now, the other one is porcupine, which is number 12. Porcupine is innocence. Porcupine remind me of innocence again, with every man a brother and each woman a friend. The south of the medicine wheel is the place of the childlike innocence and humility. It is the home of playfulness and the position of porcupine on the medicine wheel of life. Porcupine has many special qualities and a very powerful medicine, the power of faith and trust. The power of faith contains within it the ability to move mountains. The power of trust in life involves trusting that the Great Spirit has a divine plan. Your task is to find the pathway that is most beneficial for you and that uses your greatest talents to further that plan. Trust can open doorways to the creation of space. The space thus created allows others to open their hearts to you and to share their gifts of love, joy, and companionship. If you were to observe porcupine, you would immediately notice its quills. These quills are only used when trust has been broken between porcupine and another creature. Much like otter, porcupine is a gentle, loving creature and non-aggressive. When fear is not present, it is possible to feed a porcupine by hand and never get stuck by its quills. Through understanding the basic nature of this animal, you may come to understand your own need for trust and faith, and for becoming like a child again. In today's society, this is a needed reminder to honor the wonder of life and the appreciation of each new day as an adventure of discovery. So there's a story here why Porcupine found a hollow log, and she thought of all the ways, there's a log right there, and all the different ways that she could use this log. She could go inside and see if there were any juicy worms. Just as Porcupine was pondering what to do next with the log, she saw Bear approaching. Bear was big and black and looking for honey. "Oh, another playmate to share my log," said the porcupine. "Hello, Bear," she cooed. "Do you want to play and share my log with me?" The gruff old bear snorted. "Porcupine, don't you know that I'm too old to play? You're in my way. I'm looking for honey. Just go away." "Why, Bear, you're never too old to play," she replied. "If you forget what it's like to be a cub, you'll always be impatient and gruff as you are now." Bear began to think about what Porcupine had said. Maybe she was right. All the other creatures had run away from Bear in fright, Even the other bears had turned up their noses when he growled at them. This little porcupine was certainly trusting him not to eat her. She even offered to be his friend. The old bear looked at Porcupine and began to feel something move inside him. He started to remember the games he had played as a cub. Joy started to live in him again. Little Porcupine, you have reminded me that in becoming strong and seeking answers, I got caught in trying to be an intellectual. I became afraid of what others would think if I dropped my mask of gruffness. I was afraid they wouldn't take me seriously anymore. You have taught me that in being a fuddy-duddy, I was causing others not to care for me. Thank you. I'd love to play with this old log. And so it was that Bear became childlike again and learned the innocence of Porcupine. In choosing the Porcupine card, you have given yourself a gentle reminder not to get caught in the chaos of the adult world, where fear, greed, and suffering are commonplace. The medicine in this card is that of relief from seriousness and severity. Open your heart to those things that give you joy as a child. Remember the preciousness of fantasy and imagination and the making of some gay or toy from nothing but scraps. Honor the playfulness of spirit that lets everyone win. And which is interesting, before I pulled the card, we were just talking about, playing with stuff like old bicycle rims and cardboard boxes and, the playfulness of Porcupine. That's weird because we were just kind of sort of talking about that.
Right.
And Frog, Frog, there's, if you've been in the mud, then go jump in and rinse yourself off. Maybe you've been in the mud too long. And replace some of that mud with some good, clean energy. And Porcupine tells you to be playful while you're doing it. How about that for the cards for tonight? Don't forget playfulness. Yeah, that would hurt.
Yeah, it looks like it. Man, I have dogs that got with porcupines. Oh man, and pulling those quills out, a job.
Because they've got barbs on them and they don't just pull right out.
No, they don't. And they hurt when they pull. And what it is there's like a pressure mechanism in there. And what you got to do, so it's like a hydraulic. So when it sticks in you, the barb comes out, right? And it sticks in there and hooks you. But then the little spear part, you got to kind of cut that. Then it makes the barb go straight. Then you can pull it out better. So anyway, that's what I learned about porcupines. You gotta cut the quill to relieve the hydraulic pressure to get that barb out better. That doesn't work that good all the time, but it helps. I did I had a horse that got porcupine quills in it too, in its nose. It went up there to sniff the porcupine and got quilled.
Ow.
You know how hard it is to pull porcupine quills out of a horse?
No, but I can imagine.
Yeah, they don't like, dog, you can hold a dog. A horse, that's a job. So there you go. But we learned a lot about the porcupine. I like it. And the frog. Frog is renewal, right?
Yep.
And here we go again. We got good 2 hours in, but it's the greatest show on earth. I love it.
We thank everyone who comes and listens and partakes. We hope that you've learned something. And, we continue to wish you all well in your lives and that you've learned something, whether from this or, just from life. So, take it easy, y'all.
Yes, I agree. And this isn't probably the most informative show ever. And I am not the genius, but I do love these old books like this one. that I got, and from the 1800s, and it tells you a different story, and then it's up to you to go out on your own and do the work and learn some more. Question the system. Just question things. Like we said, the worship and adore, two different things. Just the pictures. The pictures tell a lot. Like we're looking at these pictures back here. One's got a mustache and one doesn't.
And there was one of those pictures that you showed towards the end, where you could tell all of them none of the men had any mustaches.
Yeah. Yeah, we know that Indian people didn't have beards and mustaches, yet their gods all had beards and mustaches. Why is that? And when the Spaniards came, they had beards and mustaches. And so, there must be association there somewhere, some way. How would they know these things? But anyway, I hope everybody learned something from it. I think it was an interesting story, and hopefully next week will be even better, because we're getting better every day.
We trying.
That's right. So remember, everybody, go out and be the frequency. Oh, wait a minute. Before I say all that, are you going to have a show tonight?
I think so, for a little bit anyway, maybe.
All righty. Sounds
Give me
great.
20 minutes, go get coffee and go chase down the dog.
That's right. Okay. And with that, remember, everybody, go out and be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all, everyone.
Cheers.
Peace, everybody.